Good morning and welcome to episode 2 of Every Citizen Armed. Today we're going to be joined by Naomi Moss of Greenhorn Outfitters. She's an expert trainer, a competitive shooter, and teaches numerous classes for both men and women. She's been shooting for over 15 years and training for over 12 years. She's a post-certified and is going to help bring us up to date on some of the SB2 qualifications. Really looking forward to talking with her for a little bit, so let's get started.
Every Citizen Armed ensures that every American patriot is prepped with knowledge, perspective, and firepower.
He counted on America to be passive. He counted wrong.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
All right, good morning. Thanks for coming and joining us at Every Citizen Armed podcast today. This is our second episode. Today, we're actually going to be joined by Naomi Moss. Naomi is owner of Greenhorn Outfitter. She is one of the top firearms instructors in our area. But like I said, we'll let her talk a little more about that, and we'll go from there. All right, Naomi, thanks for joining us today. What I'd like to do is have you kind of introduce yourself a little bit to us. Tell us who you are and tell us how you got into this.
All right. Well, I've been shooting, I've been around guns my whole life. But probably my first handgun was in 2009 when my husband said, I want you to have a gun. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I got into competition shooting. And in 2012, started teaching basic pistol classes. Got all my NRA instructor certifications. Started teaching CCW in 2014. And haven't stopped learning since. I'm always taking classes and trying to improve myself so I can be a better instructor to my students.
I think that's a key statement right there is you're still learning, and everybody needs to understand that they're always still learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my biggest things is you never think you're the smartest person in the room. If you do, you're definitely not. So you always want to learn.
Yes.
And so when you run into these folks, and I would imagine you're coming across some people who are pretty well trained already, some of them at some point. Have you ever run into issues where you have to try and help people understand that they are going to be trained? Everybody's trainable. Let me help you.
Yes. You know, and particularly like a CCW class where most everyone 99% of people coming through can hit a large FBI target at 5 and 7 yards. And they hit the target and think they're good enough. And I try and challenge them like, okay, that little 2-inch circle, you should be hitting that at 7 yards. You should not be missing that 2-inch circle at that distance. And so when people start seeing, oh, I can be better, even though it's passing a standard to carry a gun, I like to bring up, try this. Try making the target more difficult, increasing distance and things like that. So I can, most often when people leave classes, they're aware that there is room for improvement.
I would imagine. I definitely fall into that crowd right there. I could do a lot better. When I first started thinking about talking with you, I had some preconceived ideas in my head, as a lot of people do. I'm going a female instructor. I bet most of her students are going to be female students. Mm-hmm. And we met briefly the other day, and that's the first time we'd ever met. And I was actually kind of found it very interesting that you have a lot of male students that come through, and probably more so than female. But
yes. Can
you tell me a little bit about that, how that's grown?
Yes. If you think about, about 24% of gun owners are women. That's a pretty good reflection of who attends my classes. So I get roughly, about a quarter of the students are women. And I just think that's a general reflection of gun ownership. I will do some specific women classes, and there are times that ladies feel more comfortable with a female instructor. There's certain considerations there as well, and there's a time and place for it. But I think the majority of my classes you're going to see about 3/4 of them men.
Well, and I have a wife and 2 daughters, and then daughters-in-laws and granddaughters, and I would like to see more women actually get out and be more comfortable with firearms and build their confidence up. What would be the best way to kind of go about that, in your opinion?
I think for women, making it a priority is the bottom line. what that looks like, that priority, it's a little different for men and women. Men a lot of times will want to protect their families, want to kind of be in charge of making sure everything's safe and secure. And so for them, learning how to use a gun for protection becomes that priority. I know for me, when I first started carrying, my husband had said, I want you to have a gun. And when he first said that, I thought it was a kind of like a new hobby for him.
Right.
And I didn't see that priority until I was driving down south with my kids. I was a soccer mom. My kids played club soccer and, traveling. I think at one time I had a Suburban full of teenage boys and by myself and responsible for all of it. And so it shifted for me and became that priority. For a lot of women, just helping them get out and shoot a gun, get comfortable with it would be the first step. I recommend just a basic pistol class for that. And women like to go do things in packs. We always joke like women go in pairs to the bathroom. And,
Always.
I always suggest just if someone is interested, if your wife or your daughter's interested, have her get a group of her friends and do a private class. 3 or 4 people of ladies that they know, make a day of it, go have coffee or whatever afterwards, and just enjoy it. They're more likely to learn, they're more likely to relax and have fun and see the value in shooting. So,
one of the things I've come across over the years is, and we see this especially with men, but we all think we have to have the bigger gun. and what type of gun should we get? What type of gun? What caliber? What this? What that? Mm-hmm. I've always felt, in my opinion, it's not about necessarily the caliber of the gun. It's about the accuracy of the person firing the firearm.
Absolutely.
So, but when you're thinking about somebody going out and trying to pick out what type of firearm they should use, I have my own thoughts on what that should look like. But somebody who's a competitive shooter, a trainer, and you have numerous classes available to you, what would be the best option for, especially with women, a little bit smaller hands, to come in and try and find that right type of firearm for them?
My first thought is to go try them and try and see what fits, try different calibers, see what you like. I would recommend a class on the front end of that just to get right fundamentals. If you hold the gun wrong, doesn't matter the size, it's all going to feel wrong. So I recommend that on the front end. Now, that being said, it's up to the individual. But it's funny that you say, gun size, bigger's better, heavier. There is a little truth to that. Most competition guns are going to be your bit long 5-inch barrels, full-sized. And a lot of that extra weight helps with recoil, a little better accuracy on the gun. So there's some truth to that, but those 5-inch barrels are heavy to carry. So there's some trade-off. What I tend to find when women come to class, of course, the men in their lives are very excited about it. So what they tend to do is give all kinds of suggestions. Oh, try this, try this, try this. And what most men suggest for women is you need to try a small gun. And that's not always the case because a smaller gun, you're going to get more perceived recoil on it, and it's just going to feel snappier is probably a better description I can think of versus a large gun. I just drives me crazy when there's men that say, "Oh, you need a little revolver." I usually tell people if anyone suggests that, you take the revolver and pistol whip them with it. Okay, not really.
Right. Yeah.
But seriously, I don't know where that came from. It is something that. A little lady, you need a little revolver. And I absolutely 100% disagree with that. I have had more women say, I want to try a revolver. And with arthritis and other, the long trigger pull of a double action revolver, it's kind of hard to do. You got to master it. It's not impossible.
Sure.
And I've shot revolvers in matches. I'll be honest, they're not my favorite, but I can do it. And
Sure.
I feel like I'm pretty adequate with them too. But it's not something, I do not go towards that for self-defense or anything. So that being said, back to your question on what you would suggest, definitely get to something that would feel good in the hands. I've had a couple of women who, I'm going to say really nervous and almost afraid of guns, walk out and their most favorite thing was a 1911 and 45. And I'm just, I am a little baffled, but they keep going, I want that one. And I think both of those ladies said there's substance to it. There's, when they pick it up, it feels good in a hand. There's weight to it. It feels like it's the metal of it. It just kind of feels like there's something to it.
Kind of has
So-
some inbred confidence.
Yeah.
As soon as you pick that up, you're going to be a little more confident, is what it
Yes,
sounds like.
Yeah, and for the most part, the most we're in California, so we have the roster of firearms. We're limited in what we can buy. I will say the most common guns I see in a CCW class are going to be Glocks. Typically, the subcompact and compact, like your Glock 26, 27, or 19 or 33 model. I see a lot of the Shield, the Smith & Wesson Shield,
Sure.
is a very popular gun. It's funny, most men, when they buy that, I love it because it's small. If I can hide it, it's small. And women will say, oh, I love it, it fits my hands.
Yes, yeah.
And so you
exactly.
kind of get it anyway, but it is a very popular gun. I also see on the subcompact size, really the little, dare I say, pocket pistol, the SIG 238s.
Okay.
They tend to be pretty popular as well. But I'm going to say amongst men and women. I kind of chuckle when you say men want big guns. Most men have meat hooks for hands
Right.
and want to hang on to things. But I actually tend to see men, when it comes to concealed carry, tend to gravitate toward tiny pocket things. Oh, I could just stick this in my pocket. And so it's kind of funny that it's just...
It seems to be a
Simple, yeah.
transition. When guys first get into it, they want to go with that big one. And then
yeah.
as you start realizing when you're carrying, that little 380 fits in my pocket of my shorts that I'm wearing,
Absolutely.
or this or that, or I could
Yep.
put that shield, in a little carry, and
Yep.
nobody's going to notice it over my my baggy shirt.
Yep.
So that's been my experience. I've seen that difference.
Oh, yeah.
And it's me personally. I mean, I went from carrying a 40, and I carry a shield a lot of the
Oh,
times
yeah.
because
Yeah.
I know it's a little smaller, a little more compact, and it fits very well.
Yeah.
When I see folks, and we talked about this on our last episode, is I think of folks out there a lot of folks in our county have their CCWs. It's very common here. But also what I don't see is a lot of people going out and shooting enough, not putting enough ammo down range.
Exactly.
And for anybody outside of California that doesn't know, we keep getting a little more tax, a little more this, a little more. Make it harder and harder for us to have all that ammo on hand, to put ammo down range and get a little more comfortable with it. But when you're looking at that, what is a good amount of practice time? And I know it's going to vary by person, but just as a rough idea.
So absolutely 100% everyone should be practicing. If your life is going to depend on a firearm, you better want to know how to use it to the best of your ability. I don't know that there's a set amount on what would be good, but if you can get to the range once a week and throw, purposeful practice, I think that's key. Not just, I'm going to shoot a box of 50 at this target and walk away and I'm, I practiced. Were you working fundamentals? Are you working on, making sure you're seeing your sights on every shot? Are you working on a good trigger press so your hands aren't moving the gun as you're shooting? Are you working follow-up shots if you can? I know some indoor ranges don't allow rapid fire. They control how fast you can shoot. And if that's the case, you can't work on follow-up shots and things like that. Push your target out for distance. Don't just shoot at 5 and 7 because that's the standard that you have to pass. Push that target out to 15 and 25 yards. And so there is stuff. There are some drills you can pull offline. I think pistoldrills.com or and I think there might be a hyphen in there in that pistol dash. I don't remember. I apologize. But they have a whole list of drills you can do that don't take a lot of ammo. So inside of 50 to 100 rounds, you can actually get a pretty good practice session in. So cost is definitely a factor in it. And if you can't get to the range, dry fire. I think, there's so much that you can practice in dry fire. Drawing from your holster, using your carrying gear, drawing from concealment, getting your gun out, working those things out before you even step on a range. You can get I have a shot timer on my phone. It's a free app, and I can put a par time on it. So it'll randomly beep, and I can go through trying to draw my gun, and I can set a par time for, let's say, a second and a half. I want to beat a second and a half on a draw, get a trigger press on a target, and set that par time. If I'm hitting it, I can drop that par time down to 1.2 seconds or even 1 second with concealment.
You're saying par time. Mm-hmm. Say for folks that don't.
What it is there's a start beep, and after so many seconds or whatever set time you put in, there's a second beep. So you're trying to do whatever action it is, and in this case, drawing from a holster, and before that second beep happens.
I just to get some clarification in there.
No, you're totally fine.
That's probably coming from your competition shooting.
Yes, and when you look at competition shooters, they all dry fire. That's how they get better. Mm-hmm. That's how they progress. That's how they work it. They'll work, transitions in between targets. They'll work moving and shooting and reloads and, all of those things without firing a live round. And so then your practice is in your home, so you don't have gas to get there. There's no ammo, so you don't have to pay for it. It really is just cost time. And I would say 5 or 10 minutes of a dry fire, 3 to 4 days a week, and the average person will become a really good above average shooter.
Okay.
Yeah. And the thing with it too is, like, for example, using the holster draw as an example, if you can practice that, how much more comfortable and confident are you?
No, I think that's a great thing to look at, because I know I had to practice my holster pull.
Oh, absolutely.
And I really did not understand how poor I was doing at it. Because in my mind, it's there, I'm going to get it. And at the same time, I'm like, well, I'll be darned. I'm going to be 10 times more stressed when I'm actually having to pull it than I would be right there. So that was pretty eye-opening to me.
Well, and when you buy when you get new equipment, so you buy a new holster, it's going to fit a little different. It might, the retention on it might be just a little stiffer than your last holster, or looser. So if you go to grab the gun and you got some wiggle and it's almost falling out, you can adjust your equipment too. And so it's not just inability, but going through, the equipment check, making sure everything's functioning. And then clothing, how you grab your shirt. If I'm grabbing my shirt a certain way to pull my concealment off of my gun, if I'm getting hung up, I can look in the mirror and go, okay, what am I doing wrong? How can I fix this? How can I move through this? I do recommend to people also, like, dry firing in a mirror. You can see inefficiencies. Yeah. And if you can shave 1/10 of a second on grabbing the gun, if you can shave 1/10 of a second on drawing it, and 1/10 of a second on, acquiring your sights, prepping your trigger, things like that, you're almost shaving a whole half second off of that. So, and time, and I know in the competition world, time, it's all a lot of it's time based, right? But if someone's trying to take your life, time is an important factor too. I want to get my gun out as quick as I can.
Now, when you do go to the range, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of folks out there that are just getting into shooting.
Yeah.
And it's very intimidating when you walk into the gun store, you walk into Bass Pro Shop, and you see, I got to buy 9mm. Well, there's 37 different kinds of 9mm sitting there. And we all know there's going to be this kind or that kind. What is your recommendation on when you're going to be at the range for your shooting, but at the same time, now you're going to have different rounds maybe for home protection? Or do you recommend only using the same type of ammo at all times?
I think that's a personal choice. In our house, we have a lot of 9mm. I shoot a lot of 9mm in competition, and we have 45. I do shoot 45 in competition.
Absolutely.
I go back and forth between my 1911 and a carry optic or polymer gun with a red dot on it. We have those. In our home, we opted not to have 40 caliber guns. Ballistically, you can get the same with, very similar with 45 or 9, and then the the size of the guns are very comparable too. So we, in our home, it's just easier. If I'm shooting, I buy bulk 9mm or bulk 45, or we reload as well.
Oh,
so
do
it's
you?
very,
Okay.
yeah, it's very easy to just do that. Some people will buy maybe for protection of 45. Maybe they'll get the same gun in 9 and go practice with 9 because it's cheaper.
Right, yeah.
And so there's that option too. It's kind of a personal preference what you use to go to the range. And if you think of what's very common with revolvers, if you get a revolver that's chambered in a .357 Magnum, you can shoot .38 Special out of it.
Right.
And a lot of people will shoot .38 Special with practice and then carry the .357. So I'm not opposed to that either.
What about the quality in the ammo? When I look at that, you're going to see this Winchester 9mm. You're going to see the other 9. There's a lot of different, but that's what I mean. There's a definitely a round for home protection. There's a round for taking to the range. All the same to an extent. But what do you if you're going to be practicing? You don't want to go buy that high dollar ammo necessarily.
I don't practice with defensive ammo. Now, I need to put a little caveat on that because I do run defensive ammo through my gun. I make sure it feeds, I make sure it functions, but beyond that, I won't go do 100 rounds of practice with it, or I won't shoot a match with it. That's reserved for target ammo. In target ammo, you'll find subtle variations in brands.
Right.
For the most part, target ammo is target ammo.
Yeah, just
for
buy
the
the target
average,
ammo.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're going to practice, do that. One of the big things I've seen with defensive ammo is I think I'm more concerned with making it run in the gun. I have seen, and I had one gun that did this, is it did not like to feed hollow points. Target ammo, I would put 10,000 rounds through the gun and not an issue. And when it came to hollow points, it was a little, and I think the shape of the hollow point bullet. Sometimes it's a flat tip, sometimes it kind of cuts off, and it would, as it went up the feed ramp, would get a little stuck on the inside of the chamber. And so I had to actually shop around for a little bit to find a defensive ammo that would work in that gun. So I recommend in my CCW classes in particular, if you're going to carry, buy a couple boxes of defensive ammo on the front end. Make sure your gun feeds it. Make sure you don't have any hiccups with it, and carry it. When you go to the range, practice with something else. Practice the cheaper target ammo, because you can work all your fundamentals with the cheaper ammo, and then carry that defensive ammo. So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was on that one, because I see a lot of folks that are going to struggle with that one, especially with our new taxes. When we go up
gosh, yes.
another 11% again the other day. So
insane.
it is, and that's now you do a lot of competition shooting already, so you're probably traveling quite a bit to go do this. How big of an area are you traveling, and what type of competitions are you going to?
Oh gosh, I do USPSA and IDPA.
Which is?
United States Practical Shooting Association. Pretty much when you see a video and they're running around with guns, that's pretty much it. IDPA is International Defensive Pistol Association, and it's designed a little more around defensive carry, as far as you have to have a cover garment. Some people do use their carry equipment and draw from a concealment holster. Most people will have an outside the waistband holster and put a very ginormous vest over it. We call them the fishing vest. Usually it's a tactical vest of sorts. And anyway, and the reason the game side of it, those vests are easy to swipe out of the way. They're not getting caught on stuff. But there are people that will definitely use their carry gun in competition. I will do that occasionally, usually in like November, December, January. I will take a break from competition shooting. When I say a break, I take a break from practicing in dry fire and just kind of, I'll shoot a monthly match, and I usually shoot my carry gun during that, or I'll pull my PCC, the pistol caliber carbine out, a gun that I haven't shot in a while that I just kind of want to have a little fun with. So I'm getting trigger time, but it's not a very in-depth, training mode and gotta win mode. But yeah, so I shooting. I do shoot 1911, which would be single stack in USPSA, or CDP in IDPA. CDP is a custom defense pistol, and it's designed around a .45 caliber.
And how many different states are you competing in now?
You would ask me that.
Roughly. Let's go roughly. How's that?
This year, I did a match in Utah, Montana, the Bay Area, California. I'm doing a couple in California. And these are sanctioned matches. This is not just the monthly local match. I'm going to Alabama in September for the handgun nationals. Last year, I went to Ohio, Kentucky. I've traveled a bit.
Sounds like it.
I enjoy it. It's the shooting community is so great and welcoming. It's great. So
I think that statement alone right there is very that's nice to hear. If they're very welcoming. Like I said, I came in with preconceived ideas, and I shouldn't have. But I'm not unlike a lot of other men, I would imagine. So when I hear that they're very welcoming of a woman walking in there.
Absolutely.
And now you're just one of the team.
Absolutely.
I know we can say you're just one of the guys, but I know that's probably not the right way to say it anymore. But either way, you're one of the guys.
Yeah.
And that's great.
So last year, I was shooting an old, we call it the old Colt. It's a 1967 Colt. It has old GI sights. It was, I was shooting it in a match, and about 3 stages in, we get, someone noticed, or I noticed the sight was loose. The front sight was loose. And I went, oh no, I don't have a backup gun. And there's this was in Sacramento. There's a gentleman up there that I've shot with over the years. He's shot a few down here. Anyway, you just kind of meet friends and run into people over the years. And I was like, hey, Ryan, my front sight's loose. And he goes, oh no, do you want to use my gun? And I went, are you sure? He goes, yeah, he was working the match. He had just shot the day before, so he was done and had it. And I went, if you don't mind, I would love to be able to not worry about my front sight flying off and losing all of that. And so it turns out I ended up beating him with his own gun. And he was such a great sport, but that's the community. And,
right.
and it, he totally could have said, oh, well, good luck with that. And if it falls off, better for me. But instead, that sportsmanship and I've heard it said before too that like most shooters, if they're going to win, there's rubbing and
sure,
joking around and all of that. But when it comes down to it, if I beat you, I want to beat you at your best because it's more fun for me.
Well, then it's real. Then it's real.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, it is just a great community. They'll come together. I know new shooters that come out to compete. You can ask someone, hey, do you have extra magazines, or I have this, or I've never shot before. Oh, here, I have an extra Glock. Here's a whole. Just use my setup, use my backup stuff, and gets new shooters out.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's a good community to be a part of.
It is. That's what I'm seeing in our little conversation the other day and then today. In our conversation the day, one of the things that came up is we do end up with a lot of law enforcement, a lot of ex-military that come in, and there's a lot of preconceived ideas about that also, that's going to be your best shooters. And I think anybody in this world is always going to be very respectful to law enforcement and firearm and military, but at the same time, we got to understand you're out there at competition shooting, you're probably shooting a lot more than a lot of those guys are.
Yes, absolutely. And With law enforcement, there are some that train outside of what their department requires, and there are some that do that. But for a lot of the average law enforcement, they'll go and qualify with their firearm 3 times a year. Some departments it's as few as 2. Some departments it's quarterly they have to qualify, and so that's it. That they're not. For a lot of them, the gun is a part of the job, but just because it's on their hip doesn't mean they're using it all the time, that they're deploying it all the time, that they're handling it all the time. It's on their hip, the majority of it. A lot of guys coming off, when they're law enforcement coming off of work, the last thing they want to do is something that involves work, and their gun is associated with their work environment. So they don't want to go practice or, put in extra hours, taking away more from family time. So I don't blame them, but I think it's a reality that a lot of them don't get the trigger time that most think they do. And military as well, it's a different, I'm going to say different firearm. Because while I've had a few, in fact, I had a gentleman that was attached to a Marine outfit, and 4 or 5 years active duty, just did, I think he did 1 tour, and he said, we had rifles. I never touched a handgun. And so when we think of military and, shooting and firearms, a lot of time they're long guns. They're not on handguns. So it's just a different environment. And that being said, I don't have law enforcement background. I joke that I was married to the Army for 10 years. My husband was in.
Oh, yeah. Well, you were married to the Army then.
I was married to the Army. But because of that, I've taken it upon myself to take a lot of classes. I've taken quite a number of classes alongside other law enforcement, getting more handgun training, getting more rifle training, getting defensive shotgun training. And so I have a lot of the techniques and things that are similar, but on the other side of it, competing has opened up a world of speed on the gun.
Sure.
There's accuracy, absolutely, but I can be accurate and take 5 minutes to fire a shot. But couple that with do it now.
In that, you're certified in a lot of different ways. I think in our conversation, you're post-certified.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
And just recently, you've had to do some other certifications because of SB2.
Yes.
Can you give us a little quick rundown on that and some of the rules that have changed, the laws that have changed when it comes to...
Oh, gosh.
I know there's a lot. I mean, a quick synopsis on that one just to kind of help folks understand that there's not nearly as many instructors as there was a year ago.
No. What a lot of people saw with SB2, I think one of the more popular things was the sensitive places, which in essence banned guns in sensitive places. Well, what were those sensitive places? Pretty much anything open to the public. And so that's what a lot of I'm going to say the average citizen saw. But what they didn't see as part of that was training requirements on instructors. Training hours. You now have to it's mandated 16 hours in the state for an initial class and 8 hours for a renewal. There were some counties already doing that, but quite a few counties were at an 8-hour initial and a 4-hour renewal. So all of those counties had to adjust. You can no longer have your spouse's gun on your permit, which is just weird.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's good.
That was one of them. And so there's a lot of little things. As far as instructors, I think that, again, the average person is going to see that instructor list shrink because of the requirement. We now have to go through the California DOJ to get a special CCW instructor certification. And so what a lot of, and there were a couple of exemptions. The exemption was a post-certification with active or retired law enforcement. The other was BSIS training instructor, and that is your security guards.
Okay.
BSIS is armed security. And so you had to have one of those, and this is where it got a little kind of fuzzy, if you will. It said a training approved by the state. And it was like, what does that mean? And there was no definition. The DOJ did not know what it was. I talked with several instructors up and down the state trying to figure out what does that mean, what's going on. And a lot of them, the different sheriffs didn't know what that meant. And this all was implemented January 1st of this year. So this law was passed, and there was no path of implementation. It was just, sorry, you just got to comply with this.
Go figure it out, basically.
Yeah, it's up to you to figure it out. Well, what does this mean? And so I never got a straight answer from it, the DOJ, on mine. And so I ended up just going through post-certification to get that as a civilian, and then I had to apply with the state. And then
we're going to get there in just a second.
So I took the post training to stay on, and so with the DOJ, it took another month for the DOJ to approve my certification, and then the sheriff said, "Okay, you have your state certification. We'll let you back on to our list."
Okay.
And so it was very just horrible to navigate, and all these instructors are going through it. But how it impacted, just kind of personally, I couldn't do a CCW for 3 months until I got the state certification. And so a lot of people that applied would look on this sheriff website, and at one time there were only in Kern County 7 approved vendors on the list. And they were all fit. They all fit under that law enforcement exemption. So they were active or retired law enforcement and were post certified. And so that's what happened for 3. It was probably the 3rd week of March that I got approved. And I took my class in February and got approved in March. So I got mine back fairly quick.
I was thinking that was really quick for any government agency.
But for a business to not be able to teach for 3 months, that hurts. And there's quite a few out there that had to wait even longer. What it did is it impacted quite a few instructors. There was a few in the Kern River Valley, Tehachapi, where they would do a small handful every other month and it just wasn't worth it for them to spend $1,500 on a class to continue to continue. And so the list has gone down tremendously still. So even though a few of us are back on, it's still a small list. What I did notice is there's quite a few out of LA County that are now certified to teach in Kern County. There's a lot more out-of-area instructors on our list. So navigating that, so the competition so it's not always local. There's quite a couple in Lancaster. And
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually we're going to highlight, the name of your company is Greenhorn Outfitter.
Yes.
So you can find that at greenhornoutfitter.com. We're going to put that link to that site in our show notes. Good. So anybody that goes on here, you could go in there and find that. And you have a lot of classes that you currently teach. Yes. And now that they've let you get back into business, even though they hurt you for those 3 months, so now you're back in business. Kind of give us a quick list of classes that you are teaching.
So basic pistol, absolutely. A lot of new shooters that never touched a gun jump into a basic pistol. We go over all the fundamentals, can try a few guns. I do have a few there, so if someone is looking to buy a gun, they can try a few. I do definitely the CCW classes, the concealed carry classes. I'm introduced at what's called a skill builder class, and it varies every month. There's one every month, and each month we focus on a different skill. And so 1 month it might be accuracy. 1 month it might be drawing from a holster. 1 month it might be shooting on the move. 1 month it might be using barricades and cover. So just various things that a person carrying a firearm might encounter.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And realistically, like we talked about, you had to get more certifications to do this.
Yes.
that is going to add more cost to your business.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's going to add a little more cost to the classes, which everybody should understand. It's
Well, and not just that, but the hours doubled too.
yes, exactly.
And so we have that. There's other fees that increased as well. The inflation, the range fees is increased as well. So there's quite a bit of just different. It's almost like starting a new business this year with overhead and just restructuring all of that.
I think a lot of us have seen some of that shock value pop up alone when we, my permit is getting ready to come up for re-upping, and I'm sure when I look at what it's going to cost compared to what it cost before, won't be quite as much of a shock as my auto insurance was, but it's the same concept. Everything is going up.
Yes.
So I hope people understand that going in, and being that when you see what the government did there in a way, just making it harder and harder to do business.
Yes.
He says that people fell out.
Yeah.
And just really dropped out altogether. That, to me, that falls back into personal protection. That's really hurting the personal protection at home.
Absolutely.
This latest increase in taxes, that really, to me, really affects the middle and lower income. They're not going to be able to buy as much.
Yes.
I
hate to say the goal's pricing it out, making it, just people won't, it's too expensive, I won't buy it.
Yes.
And unfortunately, what I've seen is people that have made it a priority, I hate to say you're going to just pay it. And it's a really hard thing. When I see SB2 and the things that went on with that, it's all aspects of it are unconstitutional. And then the sales tax and these little things coming through, it's just the average person is just putting their head down and going. But I don't know, how do we fight back on that? How do you keep a lawmaker from making unconstitutional laws in the first place?
That's tough in this state as it is, and that actually is one of our goals here. That's why we started this, is to make a little more awareness.
Yeah.
And we want folks like yourself coming on, or other folks, and maybe down the road we could get some of those politicians to come on and help explain exactly what they're thinking. Why is this?
Why are you doing? Yeah.
I don't think many of them are going to want to jump on here, but
Probably not.
they are more than welcome to come on, I'll tell you. We'd love to have them.
And with that, I love what you're doing here and just kind of getting the word out of what's going on. Because in my last couple of CCW classes, there are people in there that were not aware of SB2.
Right.
And not aware that, I can't carry here if this passes. And so I will explain the injunction on it, the stay on it, the stay is lifted, and all of these back and forths, and let them know that this is only a portion of the law. There were 28 or 29 separate gun bills passed in SB2 as a package.
Wow.
And sensitive places is only one. And I know, like this, we have the CRPA, which is the California Rifle Pistol Association, that is fighting the legal battle. Firearm Policy Coalition is another one that I believe those two organizations are partnering together to help fight some of these things. But people just don't understand what it means. So I'll go through and say, okay, the law is right now, while it's being appealed, we don't have to abide by it because the stay is lifted. But if it is implemented, this is what you have to abide by. And I'll go through, you cannot carry in a park. You cannot carry at your kid's sporting event. You cannot carry in any commercial establishment. And it's just like, and when I'm going through these individual things in class, people's their eyes are like, what? Well, where can I carry? And I say, exactly. That's what the state wants.
Yeah, and that's, it's interesting. You brought that park up. And I've only seen one person shot in my life, and that was when I was younger. And we were at a park. We just happened to be there playing basketball, and there was a shooting probably 100 yards from us right there. And here I was, 19, 20-year-old kid. I didn't know what was going on. Yeah. But I think back to that, and to me, that highlights the only people that are going to carry, they're the ones that are doing it illegally anyways.
Yeah.
Your legally carrying individual is not going to, on the most part, be, do anything stupid. There are some, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the majority of the folks that are legally carrying are adhering to the laws.
They're trying.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Sometimes the laws are vague, and you get into transportation laws and a locked trunk, and they're like, I don't have a trunk. What do I do? They want to be law-abiding. They want to, be on the right side of things, and it's just becoming more and more. I think as the state is over-regulating, that more and more people are going to say, I have no idea. I'm just going to put it in here, do the best I can, which I think is a dangerous thing too, but that's...
Well, then you're going to have good people getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's really, really unproductive for the society in general, in my opinion. You made a comment the other day, and I know we're getting close to end here, and then we'll wrap this up in a way with a story or with a comment that you made that it really hit home with me. I have some friends, and actually when I first wanted you to get on here is because I'm a female instructor. I want more women to be comfortable to carry. I think it's important, personal protection. We know that law enforcement is overwhelmed and overrun and understaffed. You may call 911 and they're not going to be there for some time.
Right.
They're going to try. These guys are working their butts off. We know there's just not enough folks out there. But you made a statement about women who carry and that are willing to shoot a firearm. And I'd like you to kind of go through that a little bit, because I've had friends tell me, I don't know that I could ever shoot anybody. Even if he was threatening my life, I don't think I could shoot him. Do you remember that, what we talked about there?
Yep, I do. I remember that.
That one sunk in with me. That's why.
It's so... For the listener, there are people out there that will say, I don't know that I could shoot another person. I don't know. And I think the first response a lot of times is don't carry a gun if you're not able to go the distance. But I was doing a class with a group of ladies, and one of them said, if my kids are involved, I would absolutely protect. Mama Bear's coming out, and I'm going to do what needs to be done to protect my kids. But she kept going and said, but if it was just me, I don't know if I could shoot someone. I don't know if I could do that. And I said, well, whose life is more important to your kids? Someone trying to kill you, that stranger that's trying to attack you, or you as their mom? And so even if your kids are not around, even if it's just you and you're not sure if you can do it, understand that your life is precious and worth protecting. Your life means something to your kids. Not enduring something you're not sure you can take another life because personal conviction that your life is precious. And it's precious to your children. Don't leave your kids without a mom. Don't leave your kids without a dad. And that was something that I do emphasize that as well. Even if you're by yourself, your life still matters to your kids. Your life still matters to your family, to your spouse. And so that's something to, definitely keep in mind.
And that's what hit me was like, you may not be able to take somebody else's life because you think how it would affect other folks or for whatever reasoning, I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
If something happens that your life is taken, that's going to affect a hell of a lot of people.
Absolutely.
If you have 2 or 3 or 4 kids, what are they going to look like in 15 years, 10 years, 5 years? What's their upbringing going to be like without a mom? What are your parents going to go through?
Absolutely.
All the different things there. It's not, you're not just saving your life, you're actually saving other people's lives when you do that. And also, if you do let that person take your life and he gets away with it, now he could go hurt somebody else, or he or she. I know it goes, but realistically, the majority of folks are going to be men. So you're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting a lot of other people.
Absolutely.
And I have some good friends that are, they're anti-gun, and they're still good friends of mine. And absolutely the way it should be. I don't care if you agree with me politically or whatever, but they've even made comments about the guns, and I just always tell them, I said, listen, never infringe on my right to protect you.
Oh, yeah.
And I've always felt that was the best way to explain that. And I have a good friend that kind of sunk in with her a little bit. Said, never infringe on my right to protect you, because that's what it should be. So, with that, I think, like I said, go to greenhornoutfitter.com. We know that Naomi's going to be out there, doing all the different competitions and all the classes. Highly recommend reaching out. And for a lot of folks, like I said, I came in with the thought thinking I want more women into this. I still think that. And here's a great opportunity for more women to really get involved and feel more comfortable. I don't think you have to be intimidated, but I know there are some women that might be intimidated by taking classes for men. I think from everything I've seen and everything I've heard, you are very, very understanding and patient.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
really look forward to that. And I plan on doing this again in the future.
Oh, yeah. So much to talk about.
Is there anything we didn't cover you'd like to lay out there?
I think that's it. All my information's on my website. You can register. You can see I do have a working calendar, so you can see what's going on and what's coming up.
Perfect.
And if anyone has questions, you can always reach out. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, Greenhorn Outfitter on both. And
Very
classes
good.
are posted there. Sometimes you get to see competition and some stages and whatnot in there that I shoot. So
I look forward to it. I watched a little bit of that the other day. And for the listeners out there, if you want to come on and you want to support with Every Citizen Arm and what we're doing, follow us on our Facebook page and Instagram page. But you go on Facebook, you can find our T-shirts and our hats. More than happy to get those out to you. Give us a message and let us know how we're doing. Be sure to go on to Spotify and make sure you download it. And now, like I said, anybody that comes on, we always give them a shirt. And we've got a couple that we're going to give to Naomi here today, too. So Look forward to seeing everybody. Thank you. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Best of all, a 5-star review is much appreciated.